tell us, who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been in New York?
Okay. Rex Heuermann, I'm an architect, I'm an architectural consultant, I'm a troubleshooter, born and raised on Long Island.
Okay.
Been working in Manhattan since 1987. I have one tool that's pretty much used in almost every job, and it's actually a cabinet maker's hammer.
Oh, okay, a cabinet maker hammer, okay.
It is persuasive enough when I need to persuade something.
Not someone.
Something. Sometimes I have to be the heavy framing hammer.
The heavy framing hammer.
Other times I'm the lightweight hammer just to nudge things along.
Wow. That was a YouTube interview by Bonjour Realty back just in February of 2022. This is exactly when this guy is just about to be on the radar of the task force and the grand jury as they track down an alleged serial killer. Unbelievable. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in San Diego, California, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Brian Watkins. Also with us tonight in Cleveland, Ohio, criminal defense attorney Ian Friedman. And in New York City, where all this is happening, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. Great to see everyone tonight. Wow. Brian, let's start with Bernarda. I mean, you're in Manhattan like every day, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, Vinny. So just to think that had a serial killer just a couple blocks away from where I will visit or actually work on day to day. But Vinny, this is a huge day for those families of those victims and for people on Long Island, because when you hear the word serial killer, and that person hasn't been apprehended, it leaves you with some fear that it can be anyone that's around you, and the fear that you can be the next person that can be killed by this person. So while it took many years, we're talking about over 10 years for an arrest to be made, today those families have some kind of peace that someone has been apprehended and is going to be held accountable, hopefully, for taking away the lives of their loved ones, especially when we're talking about in this case where unfortunately like these victims were sexual workers and people thought that no one was paying attention, that no one was going to take their case seriously and that no one will ever be arrested. But finally their voices were heard today.
Brian Watkins, I want to put up on the screen some of the alleged searches done by this accused serial killer. Why could law enforcement not trace the calls made by the Long Island serial killer? Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught? Long Island serial killer update 2022. America's 5 most notorious old cases. 8 terrifying active serial killers we can't find. Cops launch Gilgo Beach homicide investigation task force. What you Google can and will be used against you. What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. Here's the problem. None of that proves that he did it. He could just be a crime buff. But here's the key with circumstantial evidence.
Yeah. True crime guy. Gotcha.
So here's the problem, or I should say, here's where circumstantial evidence has such a punch. It's because all those things add up and it puts the ball in your court that you must explain that stuff away. I know they say you have the right to remain silent. That's not true, okay? When they put that type of evidence in front of a jury, you must explain it. You must convince that jury that it's all just a coincidence. And that's how the strength of circumstantial evidence works.
Ian, I've got some more searches for you. If there's any children in the room, let's send them away, folks. Ready? Mature escorts, Manhattan. Teen girl begging for rape porn. Pretty girl with bruised face porn. 10-year-old schoolgirl. Girl hogtied torture porn. Girl with face beat up. Chubby 10-year-old girl crying. Blonde hair girl, young, depressed. Teen girl, oiled bodies. Nude slave girls. How about that? That's going to be pretty bad if that gets in front of a jury.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a battle there between the defense and the prosecution. The defense is going to try to keep it out as irrelevant and prejudicial. That's just one battle here. But, you know, we've been talking about this case for not even a half an hour yet on the show tonight, and it is exhausting what has already come up. At first I saw it, the New York commissioner called him a demon and a predator, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, you got to watch it having those sorts of news conferences, because you don't want to create error and prejudice a case. But then we have the official who got on there, and that was a press conference unlike anything that I've heard in a long time, laying out the evidence, piece after piece after piece. It's very strong evidence, the DNA evidence, and explaining why they couldn't solve it then, but can solve it today. Of course, the new technology and the cell phones and everything else, and it really adds up in this case. You know, there's just so much. And so then all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, I turn, I say, gee, this guy living amongst us, right? You said that earlier, and he looks like a normal guy and so forth. But then I hear counsel get up and say there's others involved, and now I snap back the other way. And then this video that seemed harmless on its face, all of a sudden is completely taken on this new complexion. This case is insane. I'm really curious to hear what counsel has, if he has evidence of other people involved in all of this. It's all over the place, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, hopefully, as Bernard has said, are feeling relieved and hoping that this is, in fact, the guy. And I got to tell you, Vinny, this evidence, the way it was aligned and what I saw in the warrant, so forth, there's a lot there. It's going to be real tough for this guy to get his way out of this one.
Okay, Bernardo, let me ask you, you're in New York. We've covered other cases of people accused of being serial killers, and all of a sudden, the jury's not going to hear it because they start severing the cases up, right? Much like some of these serial killers dismember their victims. They sever the cases, and it's one at a time, so the jury doesn't get the big picture. What are your thoughts? How will New York, you think, handle this? Because obviously the prosecution wants to try them all at once.
So DA Tierney was very strategic in the sense of how he charged this case, how he presented the case to the grand jury. First off, the 3 homicides are on the same indictment. So they weren't placed in different indictments or in different grand juries. They were all presented in front of the same grand jury. Because the DA is going under the same common plan or scheme, he started talking about the similarities between these 3 homicides. It's going to be very difficult for a judge to say, no, that we're going to sever these homicides, because you're dealing with this same type of pattern and the same type of evidence that's going to be used in each of these 3 cases. He could have charged other girls in these cases. As you can see, he only focused on these 3 that were found, their bodies within 500 feet of each other, that were found, at least 2 of them had the wife hair on their bodies, or pieces of the bondage that was used to bond the bodies of these 2 girls, 2 of the 3 girls. So because they're using the same type of evidence and the same type of witnesses and also the same type of motive, I think definitely a judge is going to keep these 3 homicides together.